Hi folks, welcome to the video. First off, I want to alleviate any fears that my current viewers might have that my video channel is being taken over by health and fitness. It's not. This is just simply a video that I've had in my heart to record and publish for the benefit of other people regarding the health crisis that I experienced. And so I do not intend for this channel to be turned into a health and fitness channel. It's going to continue being about stock trading and stock trading platforms and things like that. Okay, so rest assured, we're not changing the format of the channel, but I do want to take this time to share my story. Really, many of you who have been following me for years know that I experienced a really terrible health crisis. I nearly starved to death. I have an issue here. They had to replace about 1/3 of my bowel. Really, 1/3 of it had to be replaced. A big old scar right here, cut open. Had to spend 2 weeks in the hospital. Nearly starved to death. I was down to about 112 pounds. And well, as you can see now, I've got all of my strength and vitality back. And what my heart's intent is for this video is to share my story and hopefully encourage people so that they know that they can recover from a very severe traumatic health crisis themselves, and also show you the path that I took. I didn't do everything right. I made mistakes along the way, but I also learned along the way. And so I want to also make sure that folks realize that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a registered dietitian, I don't have any official training in this background of diet and nutrition and exercise. I just really love to learn things, and I love to learn things on my own. And I'm really interested in health and fitness, especially having recovered from a severe health crisis of my own. So I want to make sure that you guys understand, okay? Nothing in this video should be considered medical advice, okay? You need to talk to your doctor. You need to make sure your doctor does the right blood work so that you understand what your body's condition, what state it's in, as you regain your strength and vitality. But I can help you understand what I went through and the thoughts that were going through my mind. And I tell you, when I was experiencing this, I got out of the hospital, I still had a feeding tube, and I had to get around with a walker, and I barely had strength to even get up and go to the bathroom and back. That was it. And it took me some time to regain the strength enough just to walk on my own. But the point that I'm trying to make is, when I was looking online trying to find a solution, like, okay, well, how much food should I eat? How much protein should I consume? How much is too much? Am I eating too much? There were a lot of questions that I had that I didn't find an answer. Most of the material that we see published today regarding diet and nutrition and exercise is all about, how do you lose weight? Not how do you regain your muscle mass. And I want to also caution people that if you think that you're fine because you've got plenty of mass, okay, when you experience a health crisis such as 2 weeks in the hospital, what happens is your muscles atrophy, your muscles diminish in size. Even though you may retain some body fat and may look from outside appearances to have plenty of body mass, what's important is the muscle mass, because that's what allows you to move your body. And it's also very important for metabolism. Protein in the form of muscle mass is an asset in your body, just like bone. Bone is an asset. Fat beyond the healthy amounts is a liability, and it can cause major problems and disrupt hormonal issues and things like that. I want to also mention that for this video, don't think that because I'm male that it doesn't apply to women as well as males, okay? So male, female alike, these concepts that I'm sharing with you are designed to be universally applied. I'm just going to stick to the bare basics. We're going to be talking about, the macronutrients, protein, fat, carbohydrates, and a little bit talk about sodium, because when you increase caloric intake, your sodium level goes up. For some, that's a concern. And then we're going to be talking about the things that I did for exercise, because there are two things that are important, two things that are crucial, two things that are required for rebuilding your muscle mass. And that is, you need to feed the muscles protein. Protein is what builds muscle. And you need to trigger muscle growth. And that is done by a series of very simple exercises. The formula is very simple once you see it, but I'm going to break it all down into bite-sized pieces, and then I'm going to demonstrate to you and show you some of the exercises that I did early on. I used a resistance band for many of my exercises because I didn't have the strength to do much of anything else. In fact, I could not even get up out of a chair, okay, without putting my hands on my knees and pushing up. And so there's an exercise that I will share with you and demonstrate it's what I call the bootstrap exercises, all right? How do you go from, I'm using a walker to get around and I can't do anything, to how do I start doing exercises that I can do, that I can actually do? And it's gonna be all based around the home here. There's really very little special equipment, resistance bands. I've got some rings and a pull-up bar in a closet here that I'll maybe we'll get around to showing you that if I get into some of the more advanced stuff. But I'm going to show you the progressions, how you start from I can't do a single push-up to I can finally now do a push-up. Okay, that's the goal of this video. So it's in two parts. As you can see right here on the screen, this is recovery from a severe health crisis. These are Pete's priorities. This is a common theme here because, like I said, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I'm just giving you my thought processes as I experienced this and as I learned along the process, okay? And so you've got number one, okay, restore previous levels of lean body mass, okay? Well, how do you do that? You've got to consume adequate amounts of dietary calories, and you got to prioritize protein intake, okay, over the other macronutrients. If you focus on the protein, the other macronutrients follow along for the ride, okay? Then you perform the resistance exercises to trigger muscle group, and like I said, there's a formula for that, and I'll demonstrate that. Then you adjust exercise volume to maintain steady body weight gains, okay? So exercise and rest. It's sort of like respiration. You need the exercise, your body also needs the rest. I'll cover all that and discuss it. And then we want to avoid gaining excess fat mass. Remember, like I said, if you gain more than a healthy amount of fat, it becomes a liability. And a quick way to understand that is lie down flat on the ground, measure your waist diameter at your belly button, okay? And then compare that to your height, okay? It should be no more than half of your height, okay? And so let's see, the other thing is, last one is reduce the macronutrients which tend to increase the fat mass, okay, which is carbohydrates. That's where really most of the carbohydrates that we overconsume get immediately converted to fat, because the body takes that out of our bloodstream and stores it away in our fat cells. So there's a lot of information to cover here, and like I said, there's two parts to this video. Right now we're going to be going over the screen presentation. We're going to move now to the computer so that I can give you a really clear image on the slide presentation so that you don't miss any of the important details. We don't want to do that here. You won't be able to see the fine details. And so we're going to go back to the computer. I'm going to show you these things one slide after another. I think there's only about a dozen slides. It's not that big a deal. And then once we get done with the slides, then I'll meet you back here in my living room, and I'll start showing you some of the exercises that I did and show you that formula that triggers muscle growth, and it's based upon the minimum effective dose. You're going to like this, okay? It's easy. You can do it here at home, and I'm going to show you how to make the most of the short time you have available for the exercises, okay? So let's go. You ready? I'm ready. Okay, now I'm recording from the computer screen so that we've got a much better view of the slideshow and you can see all the details. We also have a little bit better audio quality here. And I want to give you guys a heads up that this video is probably going to feel like drinking from a fire hydrant. This is actually my second time recording the slideshow section of the video. The first attempt came out at about 1 hour, and that's way too long, I think, for the audience that I'm trying to reach. I understand what it feels like to be recovering from a health crisis. Your brain is not working at full capacity, your attention span is short, and you don't have a lot of energy to sit here and take in a bunch of new information. So I'm going to try to give you the quickest view possible of these slides, and I'm going to retain the original recording that was 1 hour long. And if you guys want to see more detail and get a greater understanding of the thought processes behind all of the metrics I'm going to share with you and the process that I went through, then just leave a comment in the comment section of the video, below the video, and if I get enough responses or enough requests, then I'll go ahead and publish the long version of this. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right in. We've already covered the first slide. And then here I want to show you the graph that explains the normal process of muscle growth and muscle loss. As you can see on the graph that we have a green line and a yellow line. The green line shows you maybe the maximum average for muscle mass retention of individuals as they age. The yellow line will show the bottom end of that graph, and you will see that if you drop below a certain threshold, you end up with disability. You end up not being able to do the things you used to do. You end up maybe even being bedridden or having to live in assisted living if you get too far beyond here. And so I believe that the goal for every human being should be to try to achieve a quality of life all the way to their last day. I'm not talking about extending life. I'm talking about maintaining a quality of life for as long as possible. So this is what we're talking about here. And one thing I want to share with you is where I end up in this graph. Right about this point right here is where I went from 168 pounds with average muscle mass for my age, right down into the disability threshold, and then right back up again in 2 months period of time. And now my goal is to try to maintain this slope, okay, rather than anything below that, okay? I'm trying to maximize my muscle growth from this point forward because I don't know if my condition is going to land me in the hospital again. And each time you spend time in the hospital, you're going to lose muscle mass and you're going to have to do the recovery process. And so I'm trying to limit my trips to the hospital in that regard. Okay, the next graph is going to show you the before and after pictures on the bottom. So you can see where I started in April of 2019 at 112 pounds. I know that's a hard image to look at, but that is the reality. And I'm glad I took that picture because I need a reminder of what I looked like when I finally got well or started to get well. And then the picture on the far right, you can see that's June, only 2 months later, April, May, June. Yeah, 2 months later, I had gained 30 pounds. And you can see I'm smiling in that picture. I'm at a much better spirits. And the upper graph here, I've circled an area here of concern between April 9th and April 22nd. And I'll explain that as we go on through the next of the slides. But I want you to look at that and understand that my weight initially began to increase, and then it fell off, and then I made some adjustments, and then it finally began its upward trend that you see continuing in the right-hand graph, where I finally got close to my ideal body weight. Okay, so the next chart is going to explain a little bit more detail about that little dip that you saw. And in the top section, you can see exercise calories. This is showing you the exercises that I recorded for outdoor walks. You can see that for week 16 and 17, there are no outdoor walks recorded. And the reason for that is because I saw that dip in my weight. So I started to increase my body weight and I was excited. And then I started exercising because I want to get back to my regular level of strength and fitness. And then I started losing weight. So I said, okay, let's stop exercising. And as I stopped exercising and focused more on consuming adequate amounts of nutrition, my body weight began to increase. And only then did I begin the exercise routines and continue to increase. As you can see here on this graph, I continue to increase the intensity and volume of my exercise, okay? Next chart, we're going to see a lot of the same information displayed in a little bit different way. You can see my caloric intake, which for the period of April was well below what could sustain life, okay? That is leading up to my surgery and recovery, and then rapidly increased and then leveled off, okay? And this is a period from April through June, so similar to the graphs that you saw in the previous slide. And you can see a walking distance that's a little bit different metric than the previous, but it's the same exercise. And then over here you can see that we have walking heart rate. And so the walking heart rate maintained about the same. Okay, so that's the average beats per minute during a outdoor walk. You can see that it remained about steady, but what you see on the bottom is the pace. And as these values decline, that's actually minutes per mile. So if you have less minutes per mile, you're actually walking faster. So that decline from left to right is actually an increase in walking pace. So as I'm walking faster, my heart rate is remaining the same. That shows that my body is adapting well to the exercise and that I'm able to increase my level of intensity while maintaining the same average heart rate during exercise. Okay, and then this is a little bit earlier, February to June, so this includes some of the time when I was absolutely dying of malnutrition. It was quite a scary time of my life here, being surrounded by food basically and not being able to eat, starving to death, surrounded by food. But you can see here that I maintained a steady level of protein intake of somewhere around 145 net grams of protein each day, while at the same time I was decreasing the fat intake and the carbohydrate intake. This is a good time probably to explain that when I was going through this recovery process, I really didn't find any resources that were geared towards how to overcome a difficult health crisis like this, in which someone almost starves to death. So I could imagine that there would be other types of health crises that are similar. But in my case, I was not able to find any dietary guidelines, recommendations, how many calories is too much, what should you be focusing on. And so I was continually in the process of learning and adapting as I went. I'll show you on the next graph, these decreases in fat and carbohydrate intake will make sense in the light of my weight. So as my weight increased and I got close to my target goal of about 155 pounds, I was decreasing my caloric intake. I was maintaining the same level of protein because I was prioritizing protein because I wanted to gain muscle instead of body fat. And so that's why I reduced my fat intake and reduced my carbohydrate intake as I approached my target weight, so that I was focusing on gaining muscle mass. Okay? That's the most essential element that I can explain to you right now as far as what my goals were at the time. Now we're going to take a little bit more of a broad view. These charts here are showing from April through the end of the year, so you've got a little bit more time on the chart here. And so you can see I gradually decreased protein intake, but only by a small degree. You can see that fat intake dropped from about 200, maybe 175 on average, down to about 110. And I held steady there for that fat intake. The carbohydrate intake declined at a much slower rate because it had a much deeper decline. So I go from an average here of about 450 per day down to an average of about 110 per day. And this was based on my own health conditions. So the research that I completed informed me that I need to limit my carbohydrate intake, and that is why I decreased it to such a large extent. You will have to examine your own dietary needs and your own health conditions and make your own decisions, but this is the process that I went through. And you can see here in the upper left a huge spike in the sodium intake. This was an unexpected result. Once again, there's very little information on how to regain your strength and vitality from a health crisis. Seems that all of the material that's published out there in regards to diet and nutrition and exercise is related to how to lose weight, right? Not how to gain it and how to gain it smartly. And so when you have a caloric intake of somewhere around 4,000 calories per day, your sodium intake is going to spike. That's just a natural part of that, unless you make a deliberate attempt to identify the sources of sodium in your diet and eliminate them so that you can maintain a high caloric intake while maintaining a healthy amount of sodium intake. So I'm going to give you a tool that I discovered in the next slide. So this slide right here is showing you that very tool. It's a very simple tool. It's a ratio. Here's how the ratio works. And I'm not going to explain every item on the screen here. They're there for you to review, and you can go ahead and review them on your own. But I'm going to explain the formula, which is there's a relationship that I discovered between milligrams of sodium and total caloric intake for a day. Right? So you have the typical recommended daily allowance for sodium is somewhere around 2,000 milligrams per day, and the typical diet nutritional intake is 2,000 calories per day. So there's a one-to-one relationship between milligrams of sodium and total caloric intake. And so if you want to consume 4,000 calories per day, you don't want to consume 4,000 milligrams of sodium. You'd want to try to keep that down around 2,000 milligrams per sodium. Well, how do you do that? How you do that is you've got to select foods that are roughly half of the milligrams of sodium per day as the number of calories you want to consume. So, for instance, we'll just take a look at the sliced Swiss cheese here at the top. In the middle here, we've got 60 milligrams of sodium to 110 calories. So if you convert that out and pretend in a ridiculous scenario that you're consuming 2,000 calories of Swiss cheese tomorrow, and how much is that going to be in sodium? Well, it's roughly a 50%, right? The milligrams is roughly about 50%. So you're going to have 2,000 calories intake, and you're going to have only about 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Okay, so that allows you then to consume 4,000 calories in a day while maintaining a 2,000 milligram sodium limit. Okay, so you got to be careful, and the reason I created this tool is because I needed a quick and easy tool as I'm picking items up off the grocery store shelf. I'm reading the labels. I needed a quick little thing that I could do in my head, and that's what this was. And so I would look at the milligrams per sodium, and I would look at the calories, and if the sodium was less than the calories, then I put it in the basket. If the sodium was more than the calories, I put it back on the shelf. There's a lot of foods out there that are labeled low in sodium or low sodium foods. All they're doing is they're saying it's low relative to the already artificially inflated sodium levels in everything that you buy in a box or a bag these days. And so you got to be careful. You can't just read the label, oh, it's low sodium, it's going to be low sodium. No, you have to read the label on the back, the nutrition facts, and do this little math right here. Look at the macaroni and cheese. You see the 560 milligrams to 250 calories. Immediately you can see that the sodium is about double the calories. If you were to consume 2,000 calories of macaroni and cheese tomorrow, it's a ridiculous scenario, I know, but it's demonstrating the point. You would have 4,000 milligrams of sodium consumed for that day. So you can do the math for the rest of these now that you understand how the formula works. And I've got another formula for you for protein prioritization. So my goal here, and I believe it's effective for everyone trying to recover from a health crisis similar to mine, if you lose muscle mass and you want to regain that strength and vitality, then you need to focus on protein intake because muscles are made from protein. You can't grow muscles without them. Okay, so this next slide is focused on the protein, and this ratio is a little bit different. What you do is you take your protein and you multiply your grams of protein by 10, and then you compare that to the number of calories. It shows you whether the item that you're holding in your hand is a high protein, medium protein, or low protein food item. And so, for example, with the case of Swiss cheese, it's about equal. You got 90 grams of protein for 110 calories. It's a little bit less than the equal portion, right? If you look at the mac and cheese, you've got 90 grams of protein and a whopping 250 calories. So it's almost 3 times as much calories as grams of protein, which means that is a very low source of protein in that food. Let's go ahead and take a totally different extreme and look at the raw chicken breast. We find that it has 43 grams of protein. We multiply that by 10 to get 430. We notice that 430 is roughly double the amount of calories, which is 227. That means this is a very high protein meal. And if you go ahead and review these at your own time, go ahead and pause the screen if you want to and look at each one of these in detail. You can see the pie chart that is included with each one. That doesn't show up in the label on your grocery store shelf, but it shows up because of the app that I use for tracking my food calories. And you can see how the ratio that I've given you really shows up in that pie chart, right? The proportions. So you can see high protein, low protein. And this is just a quick little math that you can do in your head, quick little formula that helps you prioritize protein over the other macros. And protein prioritization, that's what we're going to get into next. Okay, again, I want to remind everyone, this is Pete's game plan. This is what I have learned through the process of health and recovery and how I applied it to my own personal health needs because of my own personal, health condition. And you may need to adapt yours, but there are some things that are absolutely rock solid, and that is that the body needs protein in order to build muscle mass. You cannot build muscles without protein, and it can't just be any old protein. Protein comes in many, many different forms. There are 9 essential amino acids. There are a great many other amino acids, but the 9 essential amino acids are absolutely required for building muscle. And what you want to focus on is complete proteins. Complete proteins are very easily found in animal source foods. There are some exceptions. If you get collagen peptides, that lacks tryptophan, which is an essential amino acid, but virtually all other sources of animal protein are going to include complete proteins. So that way, if you focus on that, it makes things very simple. But if you can't focus on that, then I've got some documentation here that will help you understand what it would look like if you tried to apply this with a plant-based diet. Before we get into that, I want to cover the essential fatty acids. You've got omega-3 and omega-6, so you've really got only 11 elements there, aside from vitamins and minerals, that the body needs. With the 9 essential amino acids and the 2 essential fatty acids, the body can manufacture as a factory just about everything else that it needs, except for some vitamins and all minerals. So what you want to focus in on, though, is the omega-3 and omega-6. There are a lot of foods that are marked a good source of omega-3 fatty acid. Well, why do they put that on the package? Well, because science has shown that omega-3 fatty acids tend to reduce systemic inflammation, and they tend to improve many aspects of health. And I don't want to get into any more details than that, but the opposite side of that is the omega-6 fatty acids, and those will tend to increase systemic inflammation. And unfortunately, many foods that are labeled a good source of omega-3 fatty acids also come along with a heavy load, usually 3 or 4 times as much omega-6 fatty acids. So you have to be careful. I've done the research on this. You probably don't need to worry about it too much. I do, because of my condition. My condition is systemic inflammation. So I do everything I can to leverage the supplements and the minerals, the omega-3 fatty acid ratios, as well as other aspects of my diet to eliminate or limit the systemic inflammation, because that is a primary concern for my condition. Your condition might be different, and you might not need to worry about that as much. So again, I'm choosing the animal-based protein sources because that's the simple path and it works for me. It might not work for you. I also want to mention the exceptions of olive oil and avocado oils. Those things are really wonderful oils if you're trying to reduce the amount of omega-6 fatty acids in your diet, but consume a plant-based oil for other purposes. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up a spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you a graph how you get complete proteins on a plant-based diet. And again, if it feels like I'm going quickly through this material, that's because I've got a great deal of material to cover. But we've only got about 5 more slides left, so bear with me. We're going to try to race right through this so I don't take up too much more of your time. And again, you can go back and review this section of the video if you want to see the details. All I want to do is explain to you that when it comes to a plant-based diet, your plant-based food sources, for the most part, do not include complete proteins, and so you usually have to do some matching. Now, I found this resource. I'm not affiliated with this website. It's called Vegan Fit Guide. It was just one of many websites that I found, and they had a really handy little graph here that explains what you have to do in pairing your plant-based foods to acquire a complete protein. And so you can see that little matchup there, and that's what this spreadsheet is doing. And so you've got a pair here, you've got lentils and rice here, and you've got lentils and quick oats here. And then over here you've got refried beans and corn tortillas. Over here I throw a little curve into the mix there, pistachios and tofu. Each of those foods individually are complete proteins, but I wanted to throw those up there because they might be useful for some. And then you've got down here peanuts and quick oats. Now let me explain some of the other elements on this spreadsheet. There's a lot going on, but what I want you to focus on here, the grand total here is showing you the calories. And if I click on each of those values, you can see where they're being computed. So it's telling you that's 4,391 calories, and you can see that which portion of that is coming from protein, which portion from carbohydrates, and which portion is coming from total fat. And so I'll just click through these here, and you can go ahead and review these later on at your own time. Again, I'm trying to hurry through this section of the video because I've got a few more slides to go and I'm still running a little heavy on time. So the concept here is to understand that if you choose a plant-based solution, then you're going to have to be careful about how you combine your food types so that you maintain complete proteins, because If you don't have a complete protein, what you end up with is a situation like a manufacturing facility such as an auto manufacturer, and the production line is coming along and the supply route is providing a whole bunch of tires and nothing else. You don't have an engine or body panels or windshields or seats or anything, and the workers at the facility are scratching their heads going, what are we going to do with all these tires? Well, we can't build any cars, throw them over there. So you can just imagine the body being a factory of sorts is going to require nice balanced complete proteins if you're going to be effective at building muscles. And if I had known this at the time that I was recovering from my own health crisis, my macronutrient profiles would have looked completely different than they are now. I did not optimize protein during my own recovery process. So don't feel that you've got to learn all of this stuff and apply it diligently in order to be successful. There are always ways to optimize any given method or system, and I just wanted to share this with you so you understand that choosing a plant-based option is possible, but it requires a great deal of effort and research, and really it requires a professional assistance. You really, because there's a whole lot of other problems that are entered into a vegan diet, for instance, when you are lacking sufficient nutrients, micronutrients like minerals and vitamins and things like that have to be provided through supplements that are normally present in animal-based foods. So keep that in mind. I don't want anyone to think that they can just go plant-based without any concern for their health. It is healthy, but only if you make sure that you get all of the nutrients and vitamins and minerals that your body needs, that it's already getting from animal-based food sources. Okay, let's move on, and the next slide is going to show you what it looks like to have 150 net grams of protein in a given day. And again, this is Pete's game plan. Remember, I chose to do the animal protein for my main protein sources, and I want people to understand what this looks like, because when you tell people, look, you got to focus on protein, you have to eat protein, they don't understand, really. They really don't understand what all is in, what does it look like? Well, in order to get 154 grams of protein for today, you've got to eat 2 eggs, 1 ounce of Swiss cheese, 1 4-ounce pork chop, a 5-ounce ground beef patty, 1 ounce of boneless, skinless chicken breast. I probably could have put that in at 4 ounces and moved some other things around, but I didn't. Non-fat Greek yogurt, you got 4 ounces there, and then you got a 5-ounce cod fillet. Does that sound like a lot of food to you? That is a tremendous amount of food. It's enormous. And most people who are trying to prioritize protein to build muscle don't have a clue, really, how much it takes. And that's why this slide. Okay, so I'll go ahead and let you review that. Again, if you want to maybe consider half of this, right? So let's say you wanted 75 grams of protein per day just for a maintenance on someone who's not trying to build muscle but just maintain muscle and have an active lifestyle, 75 grams of protein, then you take half of these items. It's still a lot. It still is a lot more than most people think. And usually when they're having their hamburger patty, they're combining it with a bunch of other stuff, and you're skewing the macronutrient profile, and you're gaining a whole bunch of other stuff that your body doesn't need, and then gets you into trouble. Okay, just a few more slides here to go, and I want to show you this one here from April 24th, 2019. This was in the midst of my ramping up of food intake, and I want to show you that, again, I learned from my mistakes. I learned from the process, and hopefully help you understand. This is not an ideal meal plan, I would say. If I had to do it again, it would look a lot different than this. I would, number one, I would understand how to control the sodium levels. The sodium wouldn't be approaching 5,000 milligrams. Protein, I could probably get away with maybe 145 grams of protein, because there's a lot of excess protein coming in from foods that I did not properly combine. Plant-based stuff, the popcorn and the oatmeal and some of these other items that have, flour tortillas, things that have incomplete proteins that I did not properly match with the other items. And I want to also go ahead and let you just review this, and then take a look at the bottom right. You've got the nutrition profile that shows for everything that's on the screen here for one day of eating. It shows the nutrient facts, so you can break it down to saturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, monounsaturated fat. Cholesterol is there, sodium, all of the macros are right there, so you can see it all in one picture, and then I want you to compare that to my current meal plan. This is what I'm eating today. And I really wish I had time to go into more detail on this screen, because what you see here in my current diet represents a great deal, a tremendous amount actually, of research and knowledge and adjustments to my diet and nutrition plan, and getting blood work done at the doctor's office, and then making another change to my diet and nutrition. And it's really quite a lot of learning has resulted in what you see here. And again, I want to caution you, this is Pete's game plan, and what you see on the screen here as far as my macronutrient makeup and the foods that are selected are specifically geared towards addressing and mitigating the specific condition that I have. Okay, you have different dietary needs because of your own health issues, and so you can't just blindly take what I've done here and apply it to yourself, because this is custom tailored for my own specific health conditions and risk profile, if you want to put it that way. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the final two slides. This is where we get into talking about the other component, which is the exercise. Okay, we've already discussed the protein component. In other words, the need to consume adequate amounts of protein to fuel the muscle growth. And now we need to talk about the exercises, the resistance training that will facilitate or trigger that muscle growth. So I'm going to cover some terms here, because when we get into the demonstration section of the video, I'm going to be using some terminology, and it's important that you have a good understanding of what these terms mean. Okay, so first off, I want to explain to you that you cannot build or maintain muscle mass without resistance training. The old adage, use it or lose it, is absolutely true. You're either going to keep it or you're going to lose it. And it just depends on whether or not you are willing to put in the time and the effort to feed your muscles and exercise your muscles. Exercise doesn't stop when we graduate high school or graduate college. Okay, exercise is an important component of every human being. Anybody with a body should be exercising that body. When you're sedentary, that's when everything breaks down. Okay, enough about that. Let's go ahead and then talk about these terms. We have two terms here that I've highlighted, intensity and volume. And I want to explain to you that the intensity is sort of like the amount of weight that you would apply. You think about it as compared to a 5-pound barbell has a lower intensity than a 50-pound barbell. The case of doing workouts here in your own home where you don't have a lot of equipment or any equipment at all, then everything is based upon body weight or resistance bands or things like that. And the way you adjust the intensity is by adjusting the posture. So angles will change the amount of stress that you put on the muscles, and I'm going to explain that and demonstrate it so you'll clearly see exactly how you can progress through a series of exercises and increase the level of intensity as your strength improves. And then the next term is volume. Okay, volume is the amount of exercise, okay? Not the intensity of the exercise, but the amount. And the amount is broken down into sets and reps, okay? So you have a set of exercise, right? One set of exercise is, let's say you get down on the floor and you do 10 push-ups. That's one set of push-ups, okay? That's a set. The reps, okay, is how many push-ups you did during that set, okay? So you've got 10 reps of push-ups in one set of push-ups. You understand the relationship there. So when I use these terminologies, I want to make sure you understand what I'm talking about. So putting it all together here, a workout consists of a series of sets. A set consists of a series of reps. You can adjust the volume by varying the number of reps within each set and the number of sets within each workout. Okay, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And now we're going to get on to the most important slide of the entire video presentation. Well, I would say it is of equal importance to the slide I presented on the protein, okay? And that is the secret formula. The secret formula, and there's really no secret. Everybody who is doing bodybuilding understands this secret formula, okay? The trick is that when you try to explain this to someone, it's very difficult for them to understand, even though it's really, really simple. In fact, just yesterday I was sharing this with a family member. I was trying to teach one of my family members how to perform strength training exercise. And I gave them the formula, and I saw immediately that there was a miscommunication. There was a misunderstanding. They just didn't understand the concept. So I'm going to focus a little bit of time on this, and then we're going to demonstrate it. So we're laying the foundation here so that when I go into demonstrate the exercises, you'll understand what the terminology that I'm using and how the formula is put into practice. Okay, so for now, we've got some concepts here. New term of cadence. Cadence is the amount of time you spend performing each movement. So if you're doing push-ups, okay, the move down from the top to the bottom, okay, that's one movement. And then when you push against the floor and you push your body back up, that's the second movement. And together they form a rep, okay? And you want your rep to be between 4 and 5 seconds up and 4 or 5 seconds down. And I'm going to explain to you why that is, because now we're going to get into the real meat of this secret formula, which is that we're applying a concept of a minimum effective dose. What this means is that we're applying the absolute minimum amount of effort and a minimum amount of time in order to trigger the muscle growth. Okay, and this is going to help to preserve your joints. It's going to help to ease any additional strain that you're putting on tendons and ligaments and things like that. And so it's very important that you follow the minimum effective dose explained in this formula, right? So we have now another concept, another term that I will explain to you is time under tension. And that really is the secret. That is the formula. It's time under tension. And so what happens is muscles will be triggered into a new stage of growth if you apply maximum effort for a period of between 60 and 90 seconds. You don't want to do any less because it won't be effective. You don't want to do any more because you'll risk increased injury rates, okay? So you want to focus for a total period of time between 60 and 90 seconds. Okay, now how does that break down into the reps? Okay, let me bring in this other screenshot here and explain this for you. And what we've got here is, let's say you do 10 reps, 10 push-ups, okay, in a set of push-ups, and you're doing 4 seconds down, 4 seconds up for a total of 8 seconds, okay, for each rep. And then you take that and you multiply it. Okay, I'm doing 10 reps and it's 8 seconds each. And then you have a total of 80 seconds total. Now, that falls right in between our goal of time under tension between 60 and 90 seconds. Now, if you want to do longer reps, okay, you want to do reps that are 5 seconds, then you can maybe do 7. So you do fewer reps, but you do longer period in between each rep. And what you end up with then is you take the 7 reps times the 10, right? Because it's 5 seconds up, 5 seconds down, total of 10 seconds. And then when you multiply it all together and do the math, you end up with 70 seconds. Again, you're in between the 60 and 90 seconds of time under tension. And so it's important because it makes it really easy, all right? You don't have to have a stopwatch in front of you or a timer, although I would advise that you would probably want to start with something like that, because it really is easy to start cheating at your count. All right, you start counting faster as the effort becomes more difficult, and you think that you're going to, shave a few seconds off of your reps, and really you're just defeating yourself. And so it's important that you stick to the secret formula. Okay, another important concept here in this next box. By the time you reach the final rep, you should be expending the maximum possible effort. And when I say muscle failure, I'm talking about temporary muscle failure in which you cannot do one more additional push-up, using push-ups as the example for the explanation purposes, but it applies to all of the exercises. The very last rep, whether it's a seventh rep or the 10th rep, depending on what you've selected here, should be the absolute limit. You should not be able to do one more rep when you hit that 60 to 90 second period, okay? So those are the two components there. You've got the time under tension of between 60 and 90 seconds, and then you've got to try to attain muscle failure where you can no longer do another rep within that set by the time you get to between 60 and 90 seconds. And another way that you can apply the secret formula for the time under tension is with isometric exercises, which is where you hold a specific position of maximum effort for a total of between 60 and 90 seconds. And it's a lot easier to demonstrate than it is to describe. So let's go ahead and get ready for the next stage of the video, in which I demonstrate the exercises that I personally did to begin my recovery, and then the exercises that I did after I began to regain some of my strength. So I'm going to show you the progression from the very start, where I could barely do anything at all, to up until the point where I was able to do some significant exercises like full push-ups and things like that. Okay, and as a reminder, I just want to take you back to this slide right here. This is the slide that I want to use to encourage you and also caution you. You see this little dip in the body weight. Remember, the goal here is to build muscle, and for building muscle, we expect to see an increase in body weight over time. If you see your body weight starting to fall, then you need to back off on the exercise intensity or the exercise volume, and or increase your caloric intake. So keep that in mind. And the other thing that I want to remind you are these pictures, the before and after at the bottom there. And I'll probably leave these up on the TV screen as a reminder when I rejoin you back in the living room. And just a little reminder, I'm going to insert a commercial break here, and that's a good time for you to get up, get a cup of coffee, maybe another cup of tea, and clear your head and let all this stuff settle in, and then we can get started on the exercise demonstration. All right, here we are back in my living room, and I'm going to demonstrate some exercises. So I made sure to put on some running shorts and leave my shirt off so that you can see the body mechanics. It's important that you focus on the locations and angles of the joints as I'm doing exercises, because you want to be able to replicate those on your own. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with a demonstration where I'm going to show you how to achieve the time under tension. Okay, and that is the most important part of the entire process. I'm going to show it to you once in this format. I'm going to be showing you how to do curls, bicep curls, and I'm going to show you step by step how to do the proper cadence and get the proper amount of reps to get the time under tension correctly. Remember, we're shooting for about 4 or 5 seconds for each movement, and we're shooting for between 60 and 90 seconds of time under tension. So the first thing that I want to bring to your attention, okay, as I get the strap set up. And again, this is just a regular resistance strap. This happens to be the lightest of 3 that were available in the box that I purchased, and not too dissimilar from the ones that I were using. And so what I did is, to do this exercise, I simply put one foot here on the strap, and then I made sure I had taken up the slack in the resistance band, and made sure that while I had my elbow bent, you see the elbow is bent here, okay? You don't ever let the elbow lock out, because then it's no longer time under tension, okay? That's called a rest. And you don't want to let that rest happen until you're done. And so what you do then is you begin the reps, and I'm just going to show you one rep. I'm not going to show you a full set, but it goes like this, okay? You start here and you go 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. Okay, that's one rep. Okay, that's one rep. Now do 10 of those, and that's 8 seconds. Well, we did the math earlier. Okay, so you understand why we do the rep count. Okay, and it may help for you to get one of those little kitchen timers so that you can actually keep track of the time, or if you have an analog watch with a second hand, that's another helpful tool. Because I tell you, this is the part that's easiest to cheat on, okay? It is, really. And I'll demonstrate it one more time here. Again, I'm just putting my foot on the strap, and I'm anchoring it over here with my other hand, and then I take up the slack, okay? And then you put the arm in position so that you got tension on that muscle, and then you begin the rep, and you go 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. It might seem a little boring at first, but if you're using the right amount of resistance, by the time you get to that 10th rep, maybe 8 or 10, somewhere around there, you should be struggling to get that arm all the way up, okay? If not, then you need to increase the resistance. Really simple. And you can do that maybe by, doubling up the strap, and maybe, putting it, like this, so you've got, 2 instead of 1, right? So lots of different ways that you can do that. Another way that I will demonstrate the time under tension is with an isometric. So let's go ahead and show you an example of an isometric. In fact, I was just showing a family member this yesterday who was trying to improve the grip strength, and they had tools that were not really helpful, really useful. And I even spent some time looking up online to try and find, those grip trainers and things like that. Well, there's not very many out there that are doing the whole purpose. In other words, getting all 4 fingers plus the thumb involved in the grip training. Most of them will train the fingers and leave the thumb totally out of it. And so what we came up with is really simple, okay? And you just grab one of these water bottles, right? Most people have these in their home, and emptied them out. And then I put them in the freezer with the caps off, put them in the freezer. Why? To cool the air inside, to get the air down below 0. And then after about 5 or 10 minutes or so, I take them out of the freezer, carefully put the cap on and seal it tightly without, compressing the bottle, because then what happens is the air inside warms up and you have now a nice firm bottle, all right? And same thing with this one is a little bit sturdier to begin with, okay? And so let's go ahead and demonstrate that. I think this one will be a little better. And if they're contoured, then you can use that to your advantage, get your thumb right over that little contour right there. And the idea is to squeeze this bottle with all of your strength, okay? Squeeze the bottle until your hand is like shaking, okay? And what you do is, as soon as you begin to squeeze, you then look at a timer and you keep track of the time, okay? You don't have to count it in your head because you'll lose track, but use a clock or a kitchen timer or something like that. And what you do is you just squeeze as hard as you can, okay, for that whole time. And if you think that you're not squeezing hard enough, then try to squeeze a little bit harder. And then you don't let go, you don't release your grip until you've completed at least 70 to 80 seconds, okay? And like I said, if you're doing this as hard as you can, you should eventually, at some point, your hand should start to shake a little bit, okay? And so that's an isometric, okay? Now you might not need to do grip strength training, okay? It's really easy to do, and this is pretty effective. I really don't think it's worth buying one of those tools or any of those other gadgets that's out there. I think really this will do the trick. But I think that what's going to happen is that as you do the rest of the exercises, the strength training exercises, most of them are involving your hands. And so your grip is going to be strengthened while you're doing all the other exercises anyway, okay? And so let me show you one more example of an isometric exercise, okay? And that would be a squat, okay? And I'll demonstrate the exercise right here on the chair, okay? And so the idea, the concept here is that, remember I told you at the beginning of the video, I was not able to get up from a chair without using my arms to push down on my knees, okay? And so the only way I could get up out of a chair was like this. Literally, the muscles in my legs were like spaghetti. There was nothing there, okay? So what I did to build up these muscles is I would do a squat right in front of the chair, okay? So that I knew that as soon as my legs gave out, I would just collapse into the chair. And so what I did is I just hold it there as long as I could, right at the point of failure. And it takes a little bit to find out where your point of failure is, It's like you're standing up full, and then you go down to a little bit, and then all of a sudden you just collapse into the chair. Well, then you know exactly where that failure point is. And so what you do is you push yourself back up again, and then you let yourself back down just to the point, just before that point of failure, okay? And if you hold it there and look at a timer, and you do it for about 80 seconds or so, by the time that 80 seconds has elapsed, your knees are probably shaking and wobbling, okay? That's a good sign, okay? That's a sign that you are pushing your muscles to the point of failure, okay? And then when it finally is ready to fail, then you try to let yourself down, but you'll end up collapsing, okay? If you were in my condition when I started this, okay? And so that's another idea of an isometric exercise where you put the body under tension, a level of tension that you can barely tolerate, and hold it there for at least 70, 80, 90 seconds. Again, we're shooting for that window, time under tension, for that minimum effective dose. Okay, I think that explains the time under tension and how to count the reps. And from here on out, I'm gonna go a little bit more quickly, because now I wanna pack as much as I can into the rest of this video so you understand the other exercises that I was doing, okay? So I've demonstrated to you the leg exercise, okay, by, sitting down into the chair. And I demonstrated to you the curls, okay? Now let me demonstrate some more exercises for the upper body, okay? And this is very similar. I mean, you don't do a whole lot of changing of the equipment here. And so what happens here, okay, is you bring your arm out and so that it's got a little tension there, okay? And then you do the same thing. It's 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. You got the idea? So it's a shoulder raise, okay? And so you're exercising those shoulder muscles on the side, okay? But you do them, you know, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. You don't do them fast, okay? You do them according to the plan. And now you do them to the front, okay? Same thing, okay? You just lift them up like this to a count of 4, and you let them drop again to a count of 4, okay? And then you just make sure that you do your counts, you know, 4 seconds up, 4 seconds down. Try to do 10 sets. Make sure that you get a full time under tension, and make sure that by the time you get to your final rep, that your muscles are shaking and you're barely able to complete the next exercise. That's where you hit the point of temporary muscle failure. And that last set, it's really that last set, believe it or not, it's that point where your muscles are shaking and trembling and you can't push it any further. That's what triggers the muscle growth. Everything else that you did up to that point was really just the warm-up. That's really the scientific explanation of how this technique works. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate now the back shoulders, right? And so I showed you the side shoulders and the front other shoulders. Now I'm going to show you one that you can do for the, and you can probably do this sitting down as well. But you take the band and you put it under both feet like this. And this is called a bent row. People actually do this with barbells, and I have. And so what you do is you start with your, you know, notice everything is still under tension, right? My elbows are not locked. And what you do is you gradually pull your fists back to your hips, okay? And you do that with 4 seconds. And then you count again, 4 seconds back to the knees, okay? And then this is gonna build your biceps as well as your back of your shoulders as well as your back muscles, okay? Especially if you, at the end there, pull your shoulders back into it. Really, you know, get that full range of motion in there, you know? And so that takes care of the biceps and the shoulders, right? And so now we need to, you know, think about triceps. Triceps, we're gonna hit those by doing push-ups. And the rest of the exercises, we're gonna be moving on to a door frame and a closet, kitchen counter, bathroom counter, those kinds of things where I can show you the different progressions for these exercises. And speaking of progressions, like I said, you wanna continue to progress, all right? You want to continue to increase the intensity. And how do you do that with the exercises I just demonstrated? This is the light version, okay, of the strap. Then you move to the medium, okay? And when you can do 13 reps with the medium, then you move to the heavy. And when you can do 13 reps with the heavy, well, then you're ready to move on to bigger, heavier stuff, okay? For example, you can take water bottles like this, okay? I've got this water bottle, and I think it's about a 2-liter water bottle. And I have a duffel bag, okay? And my duffel bag is full of, you know, water bottles and some golf balls, you know. And so then you can do curls with this, you can do shoulder raises with this, okay? You can do a lot of different exercises with a duffel bag. You really don't need any equipment at all. But equipment does help. And I'm gonna show you some examples of doing some of these progressions with some equipment. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to another room in the apartment, and I'll show you how to do the push-ups on a door frame. That's how we begin with the push-ups, assuming that you're in this condition here, okay, like I was, and you can't even think about doing a push-up on the floor, okay? So hang with me, we're gonna move and I'll pick you up in another room here. Okay, so we have here just an ordinary door frame to my closet, and what we'll do then is demonstrate how you do the push-ups against a door frame. And how this works is the intensity of this exercise is determined by how far away you stand from the door frame. Okay, if you start off real close right here, then you know you can picture you're not doing a whole lot, right? That's pretty simple, right? But if you move your feet back a little bit more, okay, that angle right there, okay, creates a greater intensity. Okay, so that's how you progress. Okay, you start with whatever level that you can do. Okay. However close you need to be in order to be able to do the full set and get time under tension, hit that goal. And then as you progress and are able to do more, then you gradually move your feet back further and further, okay? And then the movement looks like this, okay? Again, time under tension, your body is constantly under tension, right? And then you just let yourself come right into the closet, okay? And you let that stretch. You really want to feel that stretch in the chest muscles, okay? You let that stretch really, really good. And then you push out. And again, this is 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, okay? At the end there, you just give it a nice little push like that. And then you do the next set and you make sure that you hit your targets, okay? Now what happens is that eventually you get so far out that you really, you're no longer doing a push-up, okay? And so that's where I'm going to show you the next step in this progression. How do you make that push-up a little bit more difficult, but you still can't do one on the floor, okay? So now we're going to move to the kitchen. Okay, so kitchen counter. That's the perfect height for this exercise right here. Once again, it's the same principle as the door frame. The further away your feet are, the more intensity this exercise exerts on your body, okay? But it's the same thing. Now, with the door frame, we kind of had a poor, what you would call a poor form, okay? You're not supposed to do push-ups with your arms this far apart like you would on a door frame. So it's really important that as soon as you can, that you migrate to something like this, or the bathroom counter, or a chair. I'm going to show you all those progressions. But the point is that you need to make sure that your arms are about this far apart, okay? So that when you pull them back, they're right here, okay? Right at your armpits, so to speak, okay? And then when you push up, you're like this, and you curl the shoulder blades, okay? You push those forward, okay? And then you bring them back. That's what the form looks like from this angle, okay? Now I'm going to show it to you what it looks like from this angle. So hands that far apart, okay? You want to get those elbows, okay? See how my elbows are pointing like this, okay? And then again, you want to maintain tension, so never lock your elbows, okay? You keep them flexed, and then you do your counts. You just go 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. And again, at the end, you want to push those shoulders forward, okay? Because that's important, okay? That's a full range of motion, okay? And then when you go down, you want to make sure that you touch your chest right to that counter, okay? So that's the kitchen counter. The bathroom counter is very much like it, so let's head on over there and I'll show you that one. Okay, so we have bathroom counter right here, and you notice there's a wall behind me, so that could be a natural foot stop if you need one. Once again, I want to make sure that you understand it's this far apart, okay? Keep your elbows tucked in, and your arms should kind of brush your sides of your chest as you pull them back, okay? And the same thing going forward. This is what it looks like from your angle, okay? And now you keep that same position and you get yourself in a position here. And again, same principle, the further back your feet are, the more intensity you're applying to the muscles, okay? And it's the same thing, all right? You do your 4 count down, okay? And you do your 4 count up, okay? And so how do you know when to progress? How do you know when to move from the door frame to the kitchen counter to the bathroom counter? When you can do 13 reps with the right count, in other words, 60 to 90 seconds worth of 13 reps, and you feel that you can do more, okay? When you're getting to that 13th rep, okay, and you're like, my arms aren't shaking, I feel like, I'm not breathing heavy, I feel like I can do more, that's when you go ahead and upgrade the intensity. And so you move from the door frame to the kitchen counter to the bathroom counter. And next I'm going to show you how to do push-ups on the chair. That's the next level of intensity, okay? Okay, we're back here in the living room, and there's the chair that we were using before, and it's the same process. Again, the arms are still the same width apart, it's still the same form. You're just using a different angle. Notice how much of an angle this is compared to the bathroom counter or the kitchen counter. So this is a very high intensity, and you may need to put something like a carpet underneath here to keep it from sliding. This is kind of wanting to slide a little bit, but the whole point of this is that it's a lot more intense, okay, to do it here like this, okay. And you just want to make sure that you got space to get down in there and really get dig deep, get that stretch going, okay. And so once you're able to do 13 of these, okay, then you're ready to do regular push-ups on the floor. That's about as far as I want to take you as far as progressions. I have more exercises to share with you, But I want you to realize that what I'm trying to do here is really fill a void. By the time you get to the point where you can do a full push-up, there's plenty of resources online that you can look at to understand how to do the exercises properly. And so I really don't plan to show you anything more advanced than what I just showed you here for the push-up. But I do want to show you some of the other exercises that I was doing. There's a pull-down exercise I'm going to show you. And there's also a rowing exercise that I can show you, and that's using resistance bands. Okay, so let's go ahead and move back into the closet and check that out. Okay, and then so we got the resistance band here, and I'm just going to take up some of the slack on the resistance band. And all you do is you take the band, the slack part, and you sling it up over the door, right? And you just put it on the door there. And you might need to cinch it up a little bit, take up some more of the slack. And the idea is with this one, okay, you want to keep your arms wide, okay, so that you have tension, okay? That's how you get the tension on there. If you keep them close together, you're not gonna have enough tension. And so you keep your arms out like this, and then you do your count and make sure you hit your target. And it's just like this, 4 seconds down, okay? And you all the way back, feel that your shoulder blades pinching together, okay? And then you bring it back up for another, for a count to 4, okay? And you keep doing those until you get to your maximum target, okay? And then the other thing is the rowing, okay? Rowing, real simple. You just wrap that around the doorknob like this, and then same setup, and you just pull back like this, okay? And you just make sure that you're doing them at the right count, okay? And hitting your target, 60 to 90 seconds of time under tension. And that's the rowing exercise with the resistance bands, okay? And I also want to mention that in the video description, I'm planning to put some affiliate links. Affiliate links are where I promote some products that you might be able to purchase. You don't have to purchase them. You could, use those as examples. But the idea is that I put in affiliate links in the video description. And if you click on any of those links and buy something, then I get a very tiny little commission. It doesn't really pay the bills. It doesn't even pay the utilities. So, but it is helpful. And but I want to make sure that you understand, where you can go to buy some of this stuff. Okay. So for instance, right here, I've got these rings and I've got a pull-up bar. Okay. So you can see with the pull-up bar, I've got the ability here to hang. Okay. I can just hang here if I want to. And it's really good for decompressing the spine. That's really good. So you don't really have to use it for pull-ups, but I do. And what I want to show you is how do you do a pull-up, right? I'll show you how to do pull-downs using the door and the resistance strap, but how do you progress to the point where you can do a full pull-up, all right, or a chin-up? And, just being able to pull yourself up by your own, your whole body weight. Well, one of the ways that you can do that is by using these rings, okay? Okay, and so I've adjusted the camera here so I can show you this one. And what you do is you put your feet straight out like this, okay? And then you bring your arms down like this and you can pull like this, okay? It's another rowing exercise. It's not really a pull-up, okay? But what you do then is you gradually increase the height, okay, by making the adjustment here. And as you gradually increase the height, you're gradually turning it from a rowing motion to a pull-up motion. And at some point then, you're able to do a full pull-up. The other thing that you can do is put a chair out here, okay? And with the magic of video editing, voila, we have a chair, okay? And what you do then is you put the chair here, and now you can do chin-ups. And you put your feet here like this, okay? So that you can hang from the bar, okay? But you're not using your whole body weight. You have a lot of your weight is on the chair, okay? And so you can practice doing your chin-ups this way, okay? And you can actually do chin-ups without using your whole body weight, okay? Because some of your weight is being supported on the chair, okay? So those are some things I wanted to share with you to help you understand how to progress in your exercises so that you can get to the point where the regular fitness videos that are out there and published and do a great job of explaining, the rest of it, you'll be able to make use of. You'll be able to build yourself up to that level using the bootstrap exercises that I just shared with you and be able to regain your strength and vitality. Okay, we're about ready to wrap things up here. I've shown you just about everything that I was doing when I was recovering from my own health crisis. This is how I got from here to here. Okay, that's how I progressed, doing these exercises that I just shared with you. And the other important exercise that I wanted to show you is squats, okay? Leg muscles are the largest muscle group in the body, and they're the most important because it's how we get around, okay? We're mobile by using our legs, okay? And it gives us our sense of freedom, and it helps us to, be active and productive. So I wanted to show you a quick little exercise on the squats. And again, with squats, you can do them with an isometric, and so, but you need to make sure you do them with proper form. So I want to show it to you this way, okay, sideways, and then I'm going to turn and show you this way so that you can kind of get an idea on both aspects of what the proper form looks like. And so what you want to do is hold your arms way out. Why is that? Because it focuses most of the effort on your glutes, okay, rather than your quads. And what you do then is you gradually get down into a position where, now pay attention here to the angle between the knee and the hip, okay? That's why I'm wearing as little clothes as I am, so that you can see the angles, okay? And so you see the position of the knee and the position of the hip. You want to keep that leg level or lower, okay? So really, if you can get a little bit lower, okay, and even get to the point of bringing your toes up a little bit, okay, then that is a really good squat, okay? And the deeper you can go on a squat, the better they are, okay? The more effective they're going to be, and the more strength you're going to build, okay? And you can just sit here and hold it until your legs start to wobble, okay? Now let me show that to you, what it looks like up front. So you can see my legs are a little bit more than shoulder width apart. My toes are pointing slightly outward. That facilitates the movement of the hips, okay? And then you put your arms out like this, okay? And then you go down all the way into that squat as deep as you can go, okay? And you hold it there. And you can do squats isometrically, as I just demonstrated, or you can do them as regular sets, You can do 10 reps of 4 seconds down, 4 seconds up, and get your time under tension. And then if those get too easy for you, then you can always start adding weight. Grab a duffel bag or something like that. Me personally, I've got a weighted vest, that I use. And I almost forgot to cover something really, really important. I was just at the end of wrapping up the video editing, and I remembered something. There's so much detail that I left out, and it's a shame. I've got so much more information to share, but this is really, really important. So pay attention now. The concept here is the neuromuscular connection, okay? Think of it as you've got a rowboat, okay, maybe a canoe that's got 10 people in it, and only one of them has a paddle, okay? The other 9 are just sitting there taking up space and making the other person do all the work, okay? What we're talking about here with neuromuscular connectivity, really, it's neuromuscular connections. And so when you're talking about strength training, then what you're talking about is the neuromuscular connection. So when I take this bottle, for instance, and I apply pressure, okay, my brain is very efficient. It's only using a few of these fibers, okay? I mean, more than a few, but it's only using a small percentage of the fibers. And the harder I grasp and the harder I squeeze, the brain is bringing into play more and more of the muscles, okay? And what happens then is over time, our brains learn how to connect all of those muscles and get them all working together in synchrony, okay? So that all 10 people are rowing in the boat instead of just one. And how do you build that neuromuscular connection, right? Well, everything that I've demonstrated for you today has been related to building muscle, strengthening the muscle, increasing the muscle size and increasing the muscle strength. But if you want to increase that neuromuscular connection so that the brain and the muscles communicate more effectively to one another, and you are able to use a larger percentage of each muscle group that you're exercising, then what you want to do is a higher volume and lower intensity. So take everything that I've instructed you about today and cut it in half, okay? So instead of 60 to 90 seconds time under tension, shoot for 45 to 60. Okay, and then also you might consider trying to reduce the intensity, and so you want to also reduce the number of reps. So if you've got 10 reps that you're doing to muscle failure, okay, between 60 and 90 seconds, you cut that down to 5 reps, okay, so you're cutting it in half, and then you cut that down to 45 to 60 seconds, so you're also cutting the time under tension in half, and then you also might consider reducing the intensity. And then once you have work that out, what that exercise looks like, whatever it is. Okay, it could be push-ups, it could be curls, it could be squats, it could be anything. Then once you've reduced the intensity and the volume sufficiently, what you do then is you apply that exercise and you do multiple sets. Okay, like maybe you do 3 or 4, maybe even 5 or 6 of those sets, and maybe scatter them throughout the day. Okay, so you're doing a much lower intensity, but you're increasing the volume over time. Okay, and so it's really more about practice. Think about it, it's practice. The more you do something, the better you get at it. So it's that way with exercise too. The more you use the muscle, the better your brain gets at communicating to that muscle, hey, wake up, you need to start rowing the boat. Okay, so that's really important, that neuromuscular connectivity, and it's an important concept. So you really need to do both. You need to do the resistance training to increase the muscle strength and size, as well as the high volume, low intensity exercises so that you build that neuromuscular connection. Okay, they go together like this, and so you do both. All right, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Okay, and the other thing that I wanted to mention was balance, right? And so when I had my health crisis and I was recovering, I actually lost the ability to take my left foot and bring my toes up. Okay, I couldn't bring them up like this at all. It would just sit there like this, no matter how hard I tried. And the other thing was, I noticed that I had no feeling right here. This went completely numb, and it was all numb all the way up to here, And I went to a chiropractor, and he told me which vertebrae it was, and he started making adjustments, but it didn't heal right away, And the other thing too is I wasn't able to use these muscles, right? So this muscle right here was just completely blank. That neuromuscular connection was cut off. Even though the nerve was healthy and the muscle was healthy, my brain forgot how to access it. And so how did I overcome that? I walked, and I walked a lot, and I walked on uneven ground, and I challenged myself by finding, sloped hills, and I would walk on that sloped hill carefully, very carefully, because you don't want to roll an ankle, okay? But it just gives you an example of something I experienced where I had to rebuild that neuromuscular connection. And now I've got just as much strength on this as I did before, and they're equal. Both legs had the same level of strength. And all it was is rebuilding that neuromuscular connection, teaching the brain how to reach the muscle, okay? And so along with balance, I wanted to mention something else, okay? It's a wobble board, okay? And again, in the affiliate links in the description below the video, I'll go ahead and include this in the affiliate links. So if you're wondering where to buy these or which brand to get, I'll provide some links there in the video. But I want to demonstrate this really quickly here. And so I've got 2 cameras set up because I can't cover all of it in one shot. And so the idea is you want something to balance on, okay? Especially when you're first starting out. So you put a chair here and get yourself up on the wobble board, okay? And then over time, you become good enough that you can remove the object that you're leaning on, okay, to balance with, but you really need to start with, something that you can hold on to really firmly, okay? And then the wobble board is just there, and you can do various exercises. I found an excellent website that gives you a series of exercises specifically for wobble boards, and it takes you through a progression, where you start off with doing stuff like this side to side and front to back, okay? And then you start doing with one foot on the balance board, okay? And the other thing that I want to show you too is you can incorporate this with your squats, right? So you can do isometric squats, or you can do actual squats, okay? Just like this. And it's really difficult, it's really challenging, but that's the point, okay? The idea is you want to train that neuromuscular connection so that you can balance and hold that tight, hold your balance really well. And the other thing that this does is it increases the strength of your ligaments and your tendons, as well as your coordination, okay? So I think that was really important, and sorry I forgot that during the video. And I think that's about all I've got now to share with you. And now I'll pass it back over to where we left off on the original video recording, and we'll wrap things up. Okay, that's it. That's really all I've got to show you, and I hope this video wasn't too long, but I really hope that I included all the most important details. I'm always concerned that I missed something. And again, I want to emphasize, this is my journey. This was how I progressed from being, nearly starving to death to recovering my strength and vitality. I want to encourage you that it is possible for you to recover, that you can do it. You have to put in the time and effort, and hopefully I've given you some tips and things that will help you understand, number one, that it is possible, because you have to believe it before you can do it. The surest way to prevent yourself from achieving something is to believe it's impossible, okay? So you have to believe that you can before you can do it, okay? And then just put in the effort and get it done. And don't wait too long, because if I had persisted in that state for several months or a year, then what would happen is my body would have started to reclaim the bone, and my joints would have shrunk, and they would not have been able to support the muscle mass, and it would have been a much more difficult time to get back to this level of health and vitality, okay? So whatever it is that you've experienced, my heart bleeds for you. I've been there, you know, I understand. And again, I just want to encourage you to fight the good fight, you know, get it done, and don't give up, you know, that's the main thing. And make sure you have plenty of people supporting you through prayer and socialization. Make sure you have some people around you that can support you and encourage you in this. And I really wish you the best. I really do. So thanks a lot for watching. Take care.